They say 24 hours is a long time in politics, and Uddhav Thackeray has discovered this the hard way. There's been a virtual palace coup in the Shiv Sena, and the Maharashtra government, at least in its present form, does not look like it can continue. I'm Barkhadat, you're with the Mojo story. Let's take you through the key developments at this hour. Eknath Shinde, the number 2 in the Shiv Sena, is now claiming to be the leader of the party and the man who will uphold Bala Saheb Thakray's legacy. In a letter, Eknath Shinde has accused Uddhav Thackeray of abandoning the principles of the Sena, abandoning Hindutva, and has also accused the party both of corruption and attacked it for its alliance with the Congress and the NCP. Shinde, who began the day with claiming the support of 46 MLAs, is now officially endorsed by 34 of the Sena MLAs at last count. Uddhav Thackeray says his resignation is ready, but he hasn't officially resigned yet. Could there still be many a slip between the cup and the lip? How will this story end? Who will be the next chief minister? And what about the role of the BJP and also Sharad Pawar in all of this? Let's introduce our guest. This is a virtual political whodunit. Sandip Ghose, commentator and columnist, is with us. Welcome, Sandip. Also joining us is a distinguished journalist of Maharashtra, Samrat Phadnis, who's of course the editor with Sakal Media. Also joining us is Sudhir, Suryawanshi, who's of course been tracking the inside of this political drama. And Sumanth, Raman, political analyst and commentator, is with us. So let me start with you. And I can also see Sanjay Kumar, a psephologist with the CSDS, joining us. Sanjay Kumar, namaskar. Let me start with you, Samrat. Can you tell us the latest position? If you were a betting man and I asked you, who will be the next chief minister? And let's remind our audience that Eknath Shinde is sitting in Guwahati, where he also received a visit by Himanta Biswa, the Assam chief minister, a very charismatic leader of the BJP, erstwhile Congress leader. Kabhi wo bhi zamana tha. Samrat ji, who's the next chief minister of Maharashtra?
Yeah, the most probable chance is that Devendra Phadnis will become the next chief minister, because the way Eknath Shinde is talking for last 48 hours, he has not said that he is willing to become a chief minister of Maharashtra. He is not saying that, okay, somebody else should become chief minister of Maharashtra on behalf of Shiv Sena. But he is constantly telling that Shiv Sena should not sit with NCP and Congress. That leaves no chance other than BJP to sit with Shiv Sena. And if Shiv Sena decides to sit with BJP, then their Phadnis has at least unanimous support at this time with the from the MLAs who are actually with Eknath Shinde. So I will bet for Devendra Phadnis if Uddhav Thackeray fails to diffuse this coup and fails to satisfy the rebels. So Devendra Phadnis will be my first choice.
In that case, and Devendra Phadnis, of course, has tried to plot this before and looks like he succeeded this time. But I have to ask you, Samrat, what is Eknath Shinde getting out of it then? What is he getting out of it? If he's not going to be the chief minister, if you think Mr. Phadnis of the BJP is going to be the chief minister, if this is the BJP and the Sena alliance minus the Thackeray's, I mean, imagine that. What is Mr. Eknath Shinde getting out of it?
So definitely there is a deputy chief ministership that is for Eknath Shinde. He himself can become deputy chief minister. Besides that, see that there are at least 34 MLAs who have signed on Eknath Shinde's unanimous leadership. So these 34 people and many more than that from Shiv Sena are actually saying that they are worried of the NCP. They are worried of the Congress behavior. Hindutva is one of the public. It's just an agenda that is being placed on the table. But their main concern was their MLAs are not getting adequate funds, and funds is with Finance Ministry, that is with Ajit Pawar of NCP. So they want to get rid of BJP, NCP and Congress just for the sake of their own constituencies. If they are on the right track, they will succeed in that thing only if they are able to join hands with BJP, and that is most probable situation right now.
All right, this is an early picture that emerged of Eknath Shinde showing off the support he has, a very contrasting image to the lonely picture that Uddhav Thackeray had this evening. But let me ask you, Samrat, one last question before I open it up for the panel. If Eknath Shinde is playing for deputy chief minister, that is something that Uddhav Thackeray can also offer him. Uddhav Thackeray can also offer him that. Is that all that it will take? I'm sure this was war gamed at a deeper level.
No, if you see the Eknath Shinde's politics for last 2 decades, he has not he is not a frontline sit all the times and grab all the things leader. He is a leader that he is a cool-minded leader. He wants to first he wants to satisfy his own constituencies. That is Thane city. It is not the concern for him, but his son is MP. Is Dr. Srikant Shinde is an MP at that in that specific area, and those MLAs he is being supported by definitely has a clout of BJP also. So he is building his own team of MLA supporters, not just Shiv Sena MLAs, but Eknath Shinde group MLAs, and that is most probable output of Eknath Shinde's group at this time. I think he is believing in.
Let's bring in reactions, and I also will want to play Uddhav Thackeray's very almost sort of hurt, injured statement where he basically says that if anyone had a problem, they should have come and said it to his face. Why did they have to go to Surat to say this? Before I get in the others, Sudhir, if you want to just chip in, Samrat says he thinks the next chief minister will be Devendra Phadnis. Who do you think will be the next chief minister?
So rather than I think what I like I think situation is emerging like that. Most likely Devendra Phadnis will be the chief minister of Maharashtra. As he said earlier, I will come back in Marathi. It was ridiculous. I will come back as the chief minister of Maharashtra during 2019 election campaign. Then Sharad Pawar, with the help of Congress and the Shiv Sena, he formed the three-party and two different ideological party government. And the Phadnis, despite having 105 single largest party, he sat in the opposition. So I think that Devendra Phadnis is the most probable chief minister of Maharashtra, and Eknath Shinde likely to be deputy chief minister with the portfolio of finance or something like that. But what I add in Samrat, whatever he said that, even though Eknath Shinde has written letter and they passed the resolution of with 34 MLAs saying that this government was compromising Hindutva, corruption was a major issue in this government, and so they don't want to be compromised with the Hindutva. But what I we as a journalist we also need to see behind the scene and between the line. If you see the list of the MLAs who are supporting the Eknath Shinde, most of them are facing the central agency charges like Pratap Sarnaik. He is the first person to write a letter to Uddhav Thackeray, let's join the hand with the BJP, and so BJP can forget all the ED, CBI, and income tax cases against them. Then there is Yamini Yadav, whose husband, Yashwant Yadav, is the ex-chairman of the BMC standing committee. That is one of the super powerful finance committee of the BMC that holds more than 40,000 crore budget. So that Yashwant Yadav is also facing multiple income tax, ED, all central agency cases. He one time very close to Uddhav Thackeray. Pratap Sarnaik was also very close to Uddhav Thackeray. So these are all guys who are facing the multiple ED cases. They are joining hand with the Eknath Shinde for a couple of reasons. First reason, to get the power. Second reason, get rid of all central agencies. Third reason, save our whatever the asset we have earned. These assets will not be attacked by the ED. So protect our assets. That's a major reason. Whatever they may be talking about the Hindutva and corruption, I think that is always a part of the thing.
Okay.
These are the main issues.
Hang on. What's important is, of course, that both are actually journalists who are experts on Maharashtra. Sandip, are agreeing that Phadnis they think is going to be the next chief minister. I just have one more question to you, Samrat. Why has Uddhav Thackeray not resigned yet? It seems that the writing on the wall is clear. What is he still? Is there कुछ जैसे कहते हैं ना tail में अभी twist हो सकता है कि नहीं हो सकता?
No, but see, remember he becomes chief minister on the advice of Sharad Pawar, and Sharad Pawar knows for game of patience. So okay, whatever you want to do, I am not reacting at all. I am just offering you another chance to discuss with me. So that is what Pawar's politics for over last 5 decades. So he's just following the same footprints, I think, because if he had resigned, he had approached governor and offered resignation to governor, then the game had almost been stopped. Now the game is still on. So there is always chance that okay, I may get more MLAs from Eknath Shinde's group. That is what I think Pawar must have advised him, or he had taken the same decision with his last 2 years companionship with Pawar.
Okay, very interesting. And in fact, Uddhav Thackeray made it a point today to say that Kamal Nath and Sharad Pawar had called him to offer support, but his own party hadn't. There's also a big political messaging here. This isn't just a story about Maharashtra. This is a story about that 24/7 voracious appetite that is the BJP's appetite, not 1 minute of rest or complacency. Just want to get in the big political broad strokes from Sandip and Sumanth. Sandip, go ahead.
Barkha, two parts. Of course, Samrat and Suryawanshi are the Maharashtra experts, and we can only give a kind of a telescopic view. My own reading, first of all, is here. Uddhav Thackeray is a collateral damage. The main target is Sharad Pawar and NCP from both sides. Both sides meaning within Shiv Sena. If you see the people around Eknath Shinde and Samrat and Mr. Suryawanshi can correct me, are mostly rural Maharashtra MLAs. And that too, they are from, a lot of them are from central and northern Maharashtra, Vidarbha and other places. And that's because that has precisely been the issue. One is these people felt the government was really a remote control government of NCP. And Shiv Sena was basically focused in Bombay metropolitan area and those areas. And whereas the hinterland was really slipping out of their hand, and NCP is the one who were gaining in those places. And they were all concerned that due to, and this was happening because essentially the Thackeray's wanted to concentrate power, ensure the family legacy and that dynasty continues, and the son also moves in. And in the process, they were thinking that they're losing ground. The base is shifting. So next elections, they're going to have a tough time because Shiv Sena's own base would have weakened, and BJP would go on their own. So this is really a retaliation against that. Congress is incidental. As somebody, I forget, I don't know this gentleman who said Congress is like a Bharati who's only interested in the food. They want to eat more than their share of the food.
Well, there's one way in which the Congress is, it's of course incidental to the outcome, Sandip. But for the Congress, it loses one more state in which it is even a coalition partner. So to that extent, there is a national implication there, Sandip. One brief response from you, Sandip. You are suggesting this is also keeping Sharad Pawar in check. I've also heard conspiracy theories from others, which are just the opposite, that nothing in Maharashtra happens without Sharad Pawar. I've also heard the opposite conspiracy theory. So if you want to briefly come in on that, and then I'll get Sumanth and Sanjay if his line remains stable with us. Sandip, quickly.
I entirely agree with you. So MVA itself had its issues, its tensions inside. And why you're finding that Sharad Pawar is probably holding back Uddhav Thackeray from throwing in the towel is because he doesn't want the government to fall. Because once the government falls, if Sharad Pawar and NCP get sidelined, then his importance not only in Maharashtra, in this current scenario, in the national thing, Sharad Pawar's importance, say, vis-a-vis even an Arvind Kejriwal would reduce in the whole, the new configuration which you are having of the opposition.
And that is why I say whatever happens in Maharashtra next has major implications for national politics. And I want to bring in Sanjay.
Just end it, Barkha, saying if you've been since you're traveling abroad, you may not have noticed Sharad Pawar is even now going on saying this is Shiv Sena's internal problem. Let them sort it out.
I saw that.
And echoing his line, Shri Kamal Nath is also saying the same thing. And last bit is I would request Samrat and Mr. Suryawanshi to comment on this. When you find the Maharashtra Congress leaders are invisible. None of them are coming forward, the stalwarts, none of them are coming forward, including Prithviraj Chauhan was launching Rashid Kidwai's book yesterday. And, none of them are really
bothered about Sharad Pawar did, and those are images we are seeing, did go and meet with Uddhav Thackeray. So certainly Mr. Thackeray is getting more visits from his allies, and that alliance has been attacked in Eknath Shinde's letter also. Sanjay, Kumar and Sumanth, Raman, let's get broad pictures from you before we go back to our Maharashtra experts. Sanjay, Kumar, the big national picture, the big Maharashtra picture. Both of our Maharashtra journalists think that Phadnis is going to be the next chief minister, with Eknath Shinde as deputy chief minister. Sanjay?
Very difficult, Burkha, to speculate who is going to be the next chief minister, but I can see that this government is going to fall and we will have a new government, and in that government BJP is going to play an important role. BJP plus what at the moment we are calling the faction of the Shiv Sena, while we don't know whether that faction is going to be recognized as the real Shiv Sena or not. But if BJP comes to power, I also think from a distance, I'm not based in Maharashtra. I don't have the detailed knowledge about the Maharashtra politics as the two journalists have. But I think the choice is going to be Devendra Phadnis. He's going to be the chief minister because he must be the man behind all the political events which is taking place in Maharashtra. So he would definitely get, the reward for that. So he's going to be the chief minister. I also think that he's going to be the chief minister.
And what is the big political message nationally, Sanjay? It's one less state, of course, for the non-BJP parties. That matters.
A big lesson would difficult, Burkha, to say that what is going to be the big national message. But yes, one more state goes in favor of BJP. The big national message could be, in my opinion, that this coalition government is not going to be stable. That has not been stable. There was a case in Karnataka also. The Karnataka government fell. People are not going to see it as a conspiracy by BJP, but generally BJP would get the mileage that look at these people, the people who just come together. They're not coming together to form the government. They just come together to oppose BJP, not on any principal ground, but opposition to Prime Minister Modi. So I think this narrative will help the BJP in consolidating their support base, at least building a narrative in their favor that it's only BJP which can run the states, which can run the country better than any other political party.
And that's a very interesting point given the upcoming assembly elections that, ye jod tod ke sarkarein nahi chalti. That would be, I think, the message that the BJP certainly would take to other states. And where there have been decisive victories for the non-BJP parties, the BJP finds it tougher, Sumanth, to give that message, whether it's Tamil Nadu, where you are, whether it's Bengal, Sandip's home state, whether it's Delhi or a Punjab, where Kejriwal wins decisively. But where there is an absence of decisive victories, the BJP will definitely play up the Maharashtra example. Sumanth, your thoughts?
Yeah, Barka, I think there are quite a few lessons in what's happening in Maharashtra for the rest of the country. And let's agree that the Shiv Sena Congress NCP alliance was certainly not a natural alliance, or it was in many ways, one could even call it an unholy alliance because it was the circumstances in which it was formed and so on. But still, at the end of the day, the show was on the road. Now, clearly, I doubt very much. I know that Mr. Shinde made a talk about how the Shiv Sena was deviating from Hindutva. It took him 2.5 years and occupying a plum post all the while to realize that, come on, that is complete nonsense. So clearly, there has been a plan that has been worked out beforehand, and the BJP has been an intrinsic part of the plan. Now, they may say we are watching what is happening internally, but I think anybody who's who has even a little bit of knowledge about what's going on in these kind of situations knows that Mr. Shinde is extremely unlikely to have staged a coup of the kind he has without the backing of the BJP. Now the point is also this, and this is really surprising, but I can't think of too many instances in recent memory where a ruling party has been, or at least one major ruling component of a coalition has been blindsided with most of its legislators forming a splinter group. You usually have 8 MLAs, 10 MLAs, they'll struggle to reach the 1/3 mark. Now it looks like almost 2/3 of the Sena MLAs are with Eknath Shinde. So how did that happen? I mean, that is a huge intelligence failure.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question, and I want to put it to both Samrat and Sudhir. And it's also, Sumanth, building up on your point. I can't think of another example where a family party a family party where the party is built around the family is ousted and the party is taken over. The Congress might want to learn that lesson, some might argue, from the Maharashtra example, but more on that later. Before we
Barka,
come
the only
to
example is probably what happened to N.T. Ramarao. Of course, that was long
yes,
ago.
yes,
And
yes.
that was, the way Naidu staged a coup, but that came from within the family
I
in
was
many
going to
ways.
say that's a section of the family. So we've seen
The
family
section.
warfare. We've seen the Yadavs with the Samajwadi Party. We have seen NT Ramarao and his son-in-law, and so on, Sumanth. But never that the entire family remaining living members of the family are put to one side, right? So these are very important questions for both Samrat and Sudhir. But Uddhav Thackeray is looking beleaguered. We don't know what he's waiting for, why he hasn't resigned, and he's saying, आपने मुझे आके क्यों नहीं बोला? मुझे एक आदमी भी आके बोलता तो मेरा रेजिग्नेशन लेटर तैयार होता. Listen.
पण आज सुद्धा सकाळी कमलनाथजींनी मला फोन केला होता. कालच सकाळी शरद पवारजींनी फोन केला. मला म्हणाले उद्धव आम्ही तुमच्या सोबत आहोत. हा त्यांच्या भरोश्याचा विषय. पण त्यांनी भरोसा माझ्यावरती ठेवल्यानंतर माझ्याच लोकांना जर मी मुख्यमंत्री पदी नको असेल तर काय करायचं हा मोलाचा प्रश्न आहे. माझीच लोक म्हणत असतील की ते ठीक आहे त्यांना हवे असतील पण आम्हाला तुम्ही नकोत. मग मला हेच म्हणायचं आहे की समजा माझ्या लोकांना म्हणजे मी माझं म्हणतोय ते मला आता माझं आपलं मानतात की नाही मला माहिती नाही कारण ते माझ्या समोर नाहीयेत. तर तुम्ही इथे येऊन बोलायला काय हरकत होती? सुरतला जाऊन बोलण्यापेक्षा आणखीन कुठेतरी जाऊन बोलण्यापेक्षा सरळ समोर यायचं आणि सांगायचं की उद्धवजी तुम्ही कारभार करायला नालायक आहात. हे कोविडच्या काळातले टॉप 5 वगैरे सोडून द्या. आम्हाला तुम्ही मुख्यमंत्रीपदी नको. ठीक आहे चला मी उठतो. आणि आज सुद्धा मी तुम्हाला सांगतो जर त्याच्यापैकी एकाही आमदाराने समोर येऊन मला सांगितलं किंवा जर त्यांनी स्टेटमेंट दिलं की उद्धव ठाकरे मुख्यमंत्री पदावरती नकोत तर मी आत्ता मुख्यमंत्री पदाचा राजीनामा द्यायला तयार आहे. आणि ह्याच्यावरती विश्वास नसेल तर आज आपली फेसबुक लाईव्ह झाल्यानंतर आज संध्याकाळपासून मी माझा मुक्काम वर्षावरनं मातोश्रीला हलवत आहे.
Why didn't you come to me? He's saying, and say, why did you have to go to Surat and then go to Guwahati? Sandip, you had a quick point before I go to Samrat?
Yeah, I had a point, taking off from your point of Sharad Pawar, that I can understand that Thackeray is not knowing. Uddhav Thackeray, to be fair to him, was in hospital and he's isolated, etc. And people may not have known. How come Sharad Pawar did not know that this kind of a coup was happening? He certainly has his ears to the ground. The other question I'd leave for Samrat and Sudhir to answer is, we are talking only about the government, but if the government falls, what is happening to the Thackeray's control on Shiv Sena? I think that's a bigger question because just like the Gandhis, associated with Congress, Shiv Sena is synonymous with the Thackeray's. So if he loses control, what does it imply?
It's a very good question. That Thackeray has lost control over the government is clear. But at the moment, that government change is happening with him losing control over the party. So what happens to Bala Sahib's Shiv Sena? Samrat, start with you.
I will come to that point later. But the first question is that 48 seats in Maharashtra that in Shiv Sena had contested in 2019, where 21 win by Shiv Sena and 27 were lost. They were lost against Rashtrabadi. They were lost against NCP. And 21 constituencies, Shiv Sena able to win against NCP. So in 48 constituencies, there is always a chance of struggle between Shiv Sena and NCP. So despite the alliance, it was never a stable alliance from the day one. So you are already disturbed 48 probable MLAs and MLAs. So this was the start from the day one. Second thing is about Uddhav Thackeray's appeal to the MLAs. So Uddhav Thackeray is not a usual chief minister. So if I had any query about, I had any doubt or complaint about my chief minister, what I will do is that I will complain to the party supremo. Here, chief minister is party supremo. So who will complain against him? So that is not possible at all. Nobody will come to him and say that, nobody will visit Matoshri and say that Uddhav Thackeray, I don't like your working culture or your functions. So second part, Uddhav Thackeray's appeal was unusual appeal. It was appeal to please or making emotional to the audience. But on party level, it is nearly impossible to complain against Thackeray.
Okay,
when Thackeray
Samrat, what that is the party not being able to complain. But Sandeep's point is, what about the cadre? What about the Shiv Sena workers? Videos were seen today of workers weeping on camera. You know, this was a cadre-driven party to a legacy represented, or to a politics represented by Balasaheb Thackeray, which of course was remodified, repackaged by his son and then his grandson. So what happens to the workers, Samrat?
So they are worried definitely, but imagine that more than 34. So at present, I have seen the signature of 34, but as per claims of Eknath Shinde, there are more than 34 MLAs. So MLAs, they are representative of the cadre. They are not just another MLCs. They are MLAs. They elected by the Shivsainik. So that is what a sentiment of the Shivsainik that first Uddhav Thackeray should understand. It is not the sentiment of just 34 MLAs or they want to go here and there. If the sentiment of the Shivsainik is so much, it would have been so much negative, then Mumbai would have seen riots, Pune would have seen riots, or many parts in Konkan would have seen riots. That has not happened because their leader, everybody knows that for 25 years they fought against NCP. For more than 50 years they fought against Congress. And if I am sitting with NCP and Congress, then what is the purpose of my politics? Then they lose the politics. So despite Uddhav Thackeray's appeal that I will resign as a party chief as well, nobody has demanded to resign him. So that is not in the question at all. The question is about the...
But here's my point to Sudhir ji. You know, let's say Phadnis becomes chief minister, Eknath Shinde becomes deputy chief minister. What happens to Uddhav Thackeray? Is Uddhav Thackeray going to report to Eknath Shinde as the leader of the Shiv Sena?
We don't know, Barka, right now, because at this moment, Eknath Shinde has more MLAs than the Uddhav Thackeray. He has got more than 2/3 majority. It means that Eknath Shinde's Shiv Sena is real Shiv Sena, and the Uddhav Thackeray, whatever MLAs remain with, are the group of the MLAs, not the Shiv Sena MLA, as per the legal point of view. Second thing, as everybody talked about the intelligence failure, how people didn't come to know about this scoop. Let me tell you, these things have been going on in Maharashtra from last 6 to 7 months, and I think that as per my information, Uddhav Thackeray is also knew about this. See, MLAs were going and complaining that we are facing many central agencies, all these things. So let's find out some solution out of it. So Thackeray was helpless to get some solution for his people. And on the other hand, BJP was targeting. BJP initially targeted NCP. They put their two ministers behind the bar, but they were not able to break the NCP. So what they found out that the kachi kali, we call it Hindi. So Eknath Shinde, they found out as a very soft target to pluck from the Shiv Sena along with the majority of the MLA.
What is the real reason? You see, Devendra Phadnis has tried this before. Let's play up an image that we've all forgotten, where Ajit Pawar, Sharad Pawar's nephew, the BJP believed that that there was, that this was in sight, forming the government. I think we have that picture, that old picture of Ajit Pawar and Devendra Phadnis going to meet the governor, and Sharad Pawar basically outsmarted them. It was almost like Ajit Pawar was a Trojan horse. So that did not work out, Samrat, at that time. What has changed now? What was the tipping point before I come to Sanjay, Kumar and Sumanth, Raman? What happened this time that was the tipping point for Uddhav Thackeray to lose control?
So Uddhav, see, I just told you that there are 48 seats. There are 21 MLAs who are under fear of NCP. They are not under fear of BJP. So BJP and Shiv Sena alliance is more than 30-40 years old. 84, 2014, despite they contested against each other in a couple of times, their constituencies are set. The BJP strike rate is high, so they are winning more seats, and Shiv Sena's strike rate was small, much less than the BJP, so they had fewer seats. But the real challenge before Shiv Sena is that facing my own constituency, facing next 2024 election in my constituency, when Ajit Pawar or chief finance minister is not giving me adequate money despite I am being an MLA. So that is the real question, I believe. And Eknath Shinde was smart enough to capitalize on these kind of emotions. As Sudhir said, that it is not happened in just a span of 2-3 days or 2-3 months. It is a developing theory, and he capitalized on that emotions.
But
And
the question still remains, and which everyone is asking, how did Pawar and Uddhav Thackeray, two extremely smart, experienced politicians, not pick up on this? Samrat, I want to go to Sanjay. Do you want to just hold your thought? Let me bring in Sanjay Kumar on the very important point that Samrat has made about local politics for MLAs will often decide what they do. It isn't just, as Sudhir says, the fear of, let's say, investigative cases and so on, but that the NCP was a bigger threat to half of these MLAs, Sanjay, than actually the BJP politically. Sanjay?
Sorry, I couldn't get the question, Barka.
I'm saying to Samrat's point that for many of these Shiv Sena MLAs, the NCP is a bigger existential threat at the level of their local politics than the BJP. That could have also been a key tipping point.
Maybe I won't be able to say, I won't be able to add substantial point to this, but I think the point which is being discussed for last 10-15 minutes about, this whole episode, whatever the political turmoil which has taken place in Maharashtra, I think the role of central agency, ED, should not be minimized. I think that has played a very important role. It's not that there are several factors which are being discussed, whether MLAs within the Shiv Sena didn't like the way Uddhav Thackeray was running the government. I think, but these are maybe the factors. But I think the bigger factor is the role of ED and the central agency, because that has been a constant threat, and that has, I think, resulted into the turmoil which we are witnessing in Maharashtra at the moment.
You don't think the alliance itself was counterintuitive, not just ideologically, but also at the level of local politics, as Samrat explained?
No, I don't think that there was any in this episode, or the political turmoil has anything to do with ideological differences within the alliance, because they have been in alliance for the last 2.5 years. Ideological differences had been there right from the beginning. They knew that the three parties don't match ideologically, so that has not been the case. I don't even think that there was a bigger threat because this whole turmoil has taken place, because there was a bigger threat of among the Shiv Sena MLAs from the NCP because of the local politics. I think it is largely the bigger factor is about the role of the central agencies and the way BJP has been playing the role. Maybe behind the curtain, we are not able to, this is not visible to the common man, but there is a big role for BJP to play in this whole episode. That if that was not the case, then why would these MLAs go to Gujarat and then to Assam? Why not to Madhya Pradesh, and why not to Rajasthan, or why not to Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan?
Okay, so let's bring in Sumanth on this point. Sudhir, you wanted to make a point briefly? Yeah, Sudhir.
I just want to briefly add the point. Few months back, there was income tax raid on the Eknath Shinde's close people, very close people. So that time Eknath Shinde was very struggling to come out from that, and that time it was a fear that Eknath Shinde will be also arrested in the income tax cases. So Eknath Shinde approached the Maharashtra Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray, again requested to find out some solution from the central agency. That time Uddhav Thackeray was again helpless. Then Eknath Shinde took the help of senior most BJP leader from the Maharashtra and settled the matter with the agencies. Now he doesn't want again and again this threat to remain in the to lose not only power but to lose wealth also, whatever they earn over the period of time.
Okay, so what you wanted to add there? Sorry, Sumanth, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I've seen many cases in the past where ideologically, different parties get together and hold an alliance and form an alliance. These alliances tend to break due to quote unquote ideological reasons 3 to 4 months before the next assembly election. They'll enjoy the power to the extent that they can, and only 3 or 4 or 6 months before the election will one party come out and say that, ideologically. The classic example was the DMK, where Mr. Karnanvi used to have once had an alliance with the BJP, diametrically opposite, and then walked out a few months before the election. So the fact that there is still 2.5 years to go is a very strong indication that this is not about ideology. This is, to a large extent, I agree with what Sanjay said. The agencies have become the BJP's most powerful and dependable ally across
But
the
to be
country.
fair, to be fair, Samrat did not make the point about ideology. He made the point about politics. Where does the Shiv Sena MLA see his or her future? And their bases are
Barka,
colliding. That's the point he's trying to make. He didn't make
no,
the point about
I,
ideology.
I agree with the fact that, having contested against the Congress and the NCP virtually all their lives, suddenly to be sitting along with them, their very future, political future becomes threatened. That is the point. But one very important issue, and this is sort of crystal gazing. Now, assume the BJP forms the government with the Shiv Sena Shinde group, or what would effectively be the real Shiv Sena. What happens next? Does Uddhav Thackeray, with his Shiv Sena T, if we can call it that, then continue in an alliance with NCP Congress, and then try to use the sympathy factor to wean away Shiv Sena voters towards the party? So what happens? It's going to be very interesting, because if the Congress plus
It's very
NCP,
interesting. It's very
plus
interesting.
Shiv Sena T can give the BJP plus Shiv Sena S a run for its money in the next election.
All right. I have to start closing. I'll give Sandip a last word, and then Samrat can wrap this up for us. Sandip, yeah, it is an interesting thing. And, imagine, we don't know where the Thackeray's are going to go. If Shinde remains in control of the party, we actually don't know where the Thackeray's are going to go. They're going to form their own parties. The election commission is going to have to decide. Is the speaker going to have to decide who's the real Shiv Sena? Who's the leader of the Shiv Sena? Sandip?
That's a very complex issue. Then that's where Raj Thackeray will come into play, and all kinds of things. Who is really going to claim the legacy of Balasaheb Thackeray there? But only point I would make is, Suman, since I know a bit of Maharashtra, spent half my life there, and now I know a little bit of Tamil Nadu. What a distinction I make between various dynastic parties and a Shiv Sena is this two things. One is, right or wrong, whether you agree or not, the cadre in Shiv Sena, they had an ideological moving about this, Marathi Manus and the Hindutva and all the rest. They have a certain commitment there. Secondly, unlike the Congress or many other parties, Shiv Sena had real grassroots leaders and the local satraps. So none of them could be wished away. What Balasaheb could do, get total personal loyalty from them. He was really like their god or godfather, and each of these people worked for the party. So you cannot wish them away today, and that's why Narayan Rane has moved out. So you see, Balasaheb, we discussed earlier, made earlier Joshi as the chief minister. He didn't want to go, so he could do those sort of things. Now, when you give the comparison between DMK and BJP, that's very different. On the ground, BJP hardly had any strength in Tamil Nadu.
Sandip, there used to be a book called The Reluctant Fundamentalist, and I used to say Uddhav Thackeray was that. Uddhav Thackeray was never actually the persona of Bal Thackeray. It was always considered to be Raj Thackeray, and then of course the rest, as they say, is history. So let me give Samrat the last word. Do we see Raj Thackeray come back into this Shinde-led Sena? I mean, the possibilities and the permutation combinations are now unfathomable. There's so many. But last word quickly. Phadnis, you and Sudhir agree. Eknath Shinde, Deputy Chief Minister, both of you agree. What happens to Uddhav Thackeray and Aditya Thackeray and Raj Thackeray, if I can just bring that in also, Samrat?
I'm worried about Raj Thackeray's future because he was a blue-eyed boy just few weeks back, and with Eknath Shinde's entry, he's on the backseat. So whatever he has done for Bonga and the loudspeakers on mosque and everything, that has been washed out completely in last 48 hours. So Raj Thackeray's future, that will be decided by both the parties who are joining hands in next few weeks. Uddhav Thackeray, I doubt that Shiv Sena or anybody would like to remove him from the party chief position. They will make him party chief, but this time party will not be like Balasaheb Thackeray's party. It will be a typical political party. We talked about ED and other thing, but I believe that this kind of coup had saved Shiv Sena from becoming another Congress in Maharashtra. To following the same footstep, despite of making many mistakes, same people are sitting there. There were mistakes, they are removing those mistakes, and they are making their party more viable, more relevant up to the date now. I don't see any problem for Aditya Thackeray in any kind of government, the way he had worked for last 2.5 years. So these are my take on these three
Very
people.
interesting. So you're actually saying you see this as a somewhat smooth transition. Eknath Shinde becomes deputy chief minister. Uddhav Thackeray is allowed to remain the head of the party, but he will no longer control the government in that absolute way. And there will be space for the Thackeray's, but it will be an alliance with the BJP where Aditya Thackeray could well continue to be minister. That is actually what you're seeing, Samrat.
Right. Absolutely right. Yes.
Fascinating. And it also tells you that politics for the best journalists is not predictable. So, we can't actually sit in judgment on politicians getting blindsided because sometimes you just don't see it coming. But of course, the cross voting for the Legislative Council elections gave us an early indication of what was coming. And maybe Sharad Pawar's reputation as being perhaps the cleverest politician in India will also take a knock at this point, unless he still has a card or two up his sleeve. Like I said, 24 hours is a long time in politics. Sumanth, Raman, Sanjay, Kumar, Samrat, Phadnis, Sudhir, Suryawanshi, and Sandip. Ghose. Pleasure as always. And to our audience, keep watching. Why do you need Netflix when you have Indian politics? Thanks for watching. Take care. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget